Mrs P. Laffan, Bow Park, County Meath.
The funeral of Mrs Laffan, wife of Mr P. Laffan, MCC, Bow Park, County Meath, took place to Glenkeen Graveyard on Monday. The remains arrived in Burrasalee by motor on Sunday, and office and high mass were offered for the repose of her soul on Monday morning. The deceased lady was a native of Burrasalee and was widely connected with many families in North Tipperary. She was first married to J.K. Bracken, a well-known figure in Tipperary public life some years ago. In her second marriage, she became the wife of Mr. P. Laffan, a member of a popular Castleiney family, and in recent years resided in County Meath.
A generous list of chief mourners includes her sons Peter, Brendan and Father Kevin. The archdeacon tells the reader little if anything about Mrs P. Laffan. Much has been written about the man who was her first husband, the colourful and often controversial J.K. Bracken. Her son Brendan was at the time of his mother's death on a meteoric rise through the ranks of British politics and was a close confidant of Winston Churchill. He would later serve as Minister for Information in Churchill's wartime cabinet. He was to go on to become a major influence in the sphere of newspaper publishing. The story of his life has been well told by way of biographies and many documentaries. But had his mother, the former Hannah Bracken, any contribution to or achievements in life that are worthy of note? To describe her husband J.K. Bracken as colourful and controversial would certainly not be an understatement. He is mostly associated with the first meeting held in Hastings Hotel where the GAA was established and his courtship with the female movement. The eventual dim view taken by the church, who were major employers of masons, sculptors and stonecutters of the female brotherhood, did much to soften his political outlook. In the municipal elections of January 1899, J.K. Bracken was elected to Templemore Urban District Council. In her dealings with the town clerk, Mr. Kiley, and her nemesis on the opposition side of the council chamber, the hotelier Mr. Hewson, no insult was considered too big or too small to be thrown across the floor in the oft-times fractious debates.
J.K. Bracken was awarded the contracts of the maintenance of the public roads in the Templemore area under the grand jury system. When the awarding of such contracts was transferred to municipal and county councils, Bracken's membership of Templemore Urban Council was the source of a conflict of interest. Under pressure from the local government board, with the imposition of ongoing monetary sanctions, Bracken was forced to resign his position on the council, and in his place his wife Hannah was co-opted, and she proved to be an able chairman in defending the interests of her beleaguered husband. J.K. Bracken took his seat in the public gallery. At the meetings of the council, on the very frequent occasions when the need arose, he was loud in his interventions whenever his business interests were under threat.
Yes, Councillor Hewson.
I propose that Mr. Kiley, the town clerk, be brought before this meeting of the council and explain the over-expenditure of £23.15 for a footpath on Church Road.
I refuse to have this motion dealt with today.
And may I inquire as to your reasons, Lady Chairman?
The motion has not been submitted within the time frame allowed by standing orders.
Had not this meeting been rescheduled to sit today, then at the usual date the motion would be well in order.
I cannot accept this motion. We'll now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is...
Perhaps my motion is too close to the bone for your good self, Lady Chairman.
I resent the member's implied slur.
Since your dubious elevation to the chair of authority, you have never been found wanting in defending the interests of a certain contractor employed by this body.
You should be ashamed of yourself, Hewson. That's no way to talk to a lady.
I am here to represent the ratepayers of the town, and I will not be silenced.
You represent no one, you black leg. you and your glorified flea house.
I resent that remark, especially coming from you, the man who yesterday went to Dublin to represent tenants in front of the United Irish League, but today comes to this court to gain eviction orders against his own tenants.
Shut your mouth, you cur, or I'll have it shut for you.
Will ya?
In 1902, having made himself even more reviled in Templemore than the infamous Sir John Carden, who he replaced on the local council 3 years previously, the Brackens left Templemore. There is no memorial to Hannah Laffan at Glenkeen, but this anonymous tribute appeared in the London Times in May of 1928.
Of a private person whose life was spent remote from the centre of affairs is an event of little apparent significance and must often pass without report. One of the best services performed by the Times is the notices it publishes of gentle, quiet lives which add much to the common stock, but whose quality makes no appeal to the busy art of modern publicity. Of such was Mrs Laffan of Bow Park, whose death occurred recently. She lived generally in the country, where she endeavoured by kindness and justice, charity and honour, to do her duty to her generation. All who had the happiness of her friendship agree that there has seldom been a better conjunction of sincerity, wit, graciousness and judgment. Of a delicate and highly strung constitution, tender to pain and apprehensive of it, she bore many sorrows with undaunted spirit, and by her example strengthened the hearts of others. A faithful friend, very tender, discreet, humble, infinitely intelligent, and pleasantly ironical, she was greatly loved by many, to whom her dear and honoured memory will always serve as a guide to their lives.
Obviously written by Brendan Bracken, it is difficult to know for what audience it was intended. Perhaps instead of commissioning a monument here at Glenkeen, this was Brendan's way of perpetuating the memory of his mother, quietly but in a very public forum.
The first decade of the 20th century sees her involved in endless litigation before the courts. These generally involved the eviction of tenants from many of the 24 properties in Templemore of which she is owner. In December of 1905, the Urban Council, that which she was chair just 6 years previously, discussed the eviction of her brother-in-law, John Bracken, from the house that he occupied. The chairman remarked the following: "The eviction was carried out in the most barbarous fashion and was superintended by Mrs Bracken herself, who came up from Tipperary for the purpose. She seemed to gloat over the eviction of her brother-in-law." January of 1909 saw Hannah Bracken back in Thurles Courthouse. On this occasion she is seeking eviction orders against 3 tenants for properties she owns in Church Lane, Templemore. Patrick Shannon, pleading his case, tells the court that he has always paid his rent and if evicted has no place to go. To Shannon's plea, the chairman of the court replies, "We can do nothing for you. It is a hardship, no doubt, but we must give the decree." In 1902, the Bracken family moved from Templemore to Kilmarnock in County Limerick. 2 years later, J.K. Bracken died from cancer, or as the newspaper reported at the time, an internal malady. 1908 takes Hannah Bracken and family to Dublin, first to Glasnevin, later to Phillipsburg Avenue. In July 1917, she marries her cousin Patrick Laffan, and the family moved to Dollarstown House in County Meath. Together they had one daughter, Maeve. Patrick Laffan involved himself in local politics, representing firstly the Farmers' Party and later Fianna Fáil on Meath County Council. Unlike her time in Templemore, Hannah took no active part in politics, concentrating her energies instead on her home, farm and family. She died on the 11th of May 1928 in a private nursing home in Dublin. To attach some degree of understanding to J.K. Bracken, his politics and his way of doing business and his family, it is necessary to look at the seismic shift in Irish society that began post-famine Ireland. While the Young Ireland Rebellion of 1848 and the Fenian Rising of 1867, from a military viewpoint, could be classified as abject failures, but they began the process that would eventually result in the ending of the curse of landlordism. Parnell and the Irish Parliamentary Party, along with Michael Davies and the Land League, forcibly pursued the breaking up of the states and the establishment of the Land Commission. In theory, all of this should have resulted in general satisfaction across the population. Whatever feeling of goodwill prevailed, its reign was short. In the breaking up of the states and the demise of the gentry, a vacuum arose into which stepped a certain Catholic middle class. In short time, these became as remote from the general population as the privileged elite that preceded them. Templemore U.C.D., in common with most similar municipal authorities throughout the country, was dominated by members who solely represented the interests of ratepayers. There can be no doubt in J.K. Bracken's sincerity in his vehement advocacy on behalf of the female prisoners who were held in English jails. As the Catholic Church and the local government bodies were the biggest customers of his stone-cutting and road maintenance business, he could be well excused for softening his feeling and temperament, especially in his dealings with the former. In view of his being a strict and sometimes harsh employer, it is difficult to see where the sincerity lay in his love of the labour movement. Having secured the help of tradesmen and labourers to gain his seat on Templemore Urban Council, his interest quickly reverted to the things that was of most importance to him, namely his business. In this his wife Hannah proved an able assistant. Perhaps this was the biggest reason for the family leaving Templemore in 1902. Numerous litigations had by now made the Brackens unpopular, and many knew them as the new elite, holding them in scorn and contempt, just as Bracken did the hotelier Hewson and the landlord Carton and the business clique of their earlier generation. Very soon the satisfied labourers, shopkeepers, assistants and smallholders and tenant farmers would find a place that catered for their hopes and aspirations with the founder of Griffith Sinn Féin in November of 1905. Hannah Bracken was an able operator in the road riot. University educated, she could hold her own in any debate or argument, and was steadfastly loyal to her husband throughout his many trials and difficulties. She holds the distinction of being the first woman in Ireland to chair a municipal authority. When her husband died in 1904, with the assistance of her cousins in the Prairie Town, Frown solicitors, she secured the rights in his property and business interests. This is in an age where women's rights were considerably secondary. And that's the story of Hannah Bracken.